She forced her fiancé's pregnant ex-wife to sing at her wedding. And that's exactly what Isabella Stevens did when she hired Camila Rodriguez as the wedding singer for her $1 million ceremony. "I hope you know your place here," Isabella whispered backstage at the Grand Hotel Metropolitan, adjusting the diamond tiara that glittered like a crown of ice. "You're here to serve, not to draw attention to yourself. Do you understand?" Camila, 7 months pregnant, tightened her grip on the microphone. Her calm reply made Isabella frown. "I understand perfectly." What the new Mrs. Stevens didn't realize was that she had just awakened something very dangerous in a woman who had lost everything, yet still possessed one unshakable weapon, her voice. 3 hours earlier, Camila had discovered the truth behind the dream job that had appeared just when she needed money the most. Patricia, the event planner, had slipped up on a call. "The bride specifically insisted on you," she had said innocently. "She told me she knows your work personally." Camila's heart had stopped cold. Isabella Stevens, the woman who had stolen her husband, David Rodriguez, during the worst moment of Camila's life, when she'd lost her job and found out she was pregnant. Now Isabella was marrying David in a $2 million ceremony. Camila remembered the day David had left. The text message had been short, just 160 characters. "I can't take this life anymore. Isabella offers me a future you never could." 6 years of marriage erased with a text. And now, watching Isabella strut around the marble hall like a queen, Camila understood that this wasn't coincidence. It was a show of power, a carefully orchestrated humiliation, forcing the ex-wife, pregnant and abandoned, to sing at the wedding of the man who had broken her. 5 minutes to go," Patricia shouted, rushing between florists and photographers. Camila rested a gentle hand on her belly as the baby kicked, sensing her mother's storm. "Calm down, my love," she whispered. "Mommy will take care of everything." Neither Isabella nor David knew that for the past 3 months Camila had been preparing for this moment, not for the music, but for justice. While they believed she was merely surviving, Camila had been digging. She'd hired a private investigator, uncovered financial secrets, and learned truths about the perfect couple that could burn their empire to ashes. Sometimes revenge doesn't need fire or fury. Sometimes it just needs a song. 2 hours before the ceremony, Isabella had appeared in the cramped vendor dressing room, followed by 3 friends dressed in gowns that cost more than Camila's yearly income. "Camila, darling," Isabella said sweetly, her smile venomous, "I just want you to understand how things work here." She circled Camila like a predator, savoring the fear. "You'll sing the songs I chose in the key I decided. And you'll smile a lot. Because today isn't about you. It's never been about you." "I understand," Camila replied calmly, adjusting the borrowed black dress her sister had lent her. Isabella laughed, turning to her friends. "Look at her. Pregnant, abandoned, and still trying to be relevant. Isn't that pathetic?" They all laughed. What Isabella didn't notice was the small phone on the vanity, its recording app quietly running. Every cruel word was being captured, evidence for what was to come. Camila remained silent, her mind replaying memories she had tried to bury. At 23, she'd stood at a tiny church altar, radiant and in love. David Rodriguez, then a struggling accountant, had promised her forever. They'd shared a cramped apartment, cheap wine, and endless dreams. Then David had joined Harold Stevens & Co., Isabella's father's firm. Overnight, his world changed, and so did he. He came home late, criticized her clothes, her friends, her voice. "You have to understand," he'd said once. "I move in different circles now." When Camila told him she was pregnant, he'd looked horrified. "This will ruin everything," he'd shouted. "Harold Stevens is conservative. He won't tolerate this." "Too conservative for children?" she had snapped. "But not for adultery?" That was when he'd told her the truth. He'd already proposed to Isabella 3 weeks earlier. The divorce papers were ready. She would be painted as unstable, manipulative, a woman trying to trap a man with a baby. The memory still burned like acid. Back in the present, Isabella was instructing her where to stand. "Right at the back. You're just background music. No one should notice you." Camila smiled faintly. Perfect, she murmured, touching her belly. Exactly where I want to be. Because invisibility, she had learned, was the perfect camouflage. 1 hour before the ceremony, David walked in. Camila didn't need him to speak. She could read guilt in the tremor of his hands, the stiffness in his jaw. "Camila, I need to talk to you," he began. "About today? About what?" she interrupted softly. "About making me sing at your wedding while I'm carrying your child? Or about lying to Isabella saying we were never really married?" David paled. How did you—" "Rosa is a great lawyer," Camila said. "My sister found the forged documents. You signed my name 3 times at the registry office." He went still, the color draining from his face. Camila continued, her tone almost tender. "You see, Rosa also found something else. Some irregularities in the company accounts, transfers, hidden funds. Enough to make the FBI very interested. What do you want?" he whispered. "Nothing," she said simply. "You already took everything worth wanting." At that moment, the door opened. Rosa Rodriguez entered, tall, poised, carrying a leather briefcase. "Well, look who we have here," she said coldly. "Mr. Rodriguez, I just sent the FBI a very interesting package. 3 years of financial records showing you and Harold Stevens laundered $50 million through offshore accounts." David blanched. "You're bluffing." Rosa opened the folder, her smile sharp. "Emails, bank transfers, board meeting minutes. You forged more than Camila's signature, David. You forged your own future." Camila placed a gentle hand on her sister's arm. "Rosa, let him go. There's a wedding starting soon, and I need to warm up my voice." David stared at her. "You can't. If you say anything today, you'll ruin me." Camila tilted her head. "David, you ruined yourself." She looked at her reflection, not the defeated woman she'd once been, but someone stronger. Rosa squeezed her shoulder. "Once you start, there's no turning back." Camila smiled, eyes bright with calm fire. "Good. It's time they all heard the truth. And sometimes," she added, lifting her microphone, "the truth needs to be sung." The ceremony began at exactly 5 o'clock. 300 guests from New York's elite filled the glittering ballroom of the Grand Hotel Metropolitan, a sea of diamonds, champagne, and whispered gossip. Camila stood quietly at the back of the stage, just as Isabella had ordered. Ironically, that corner gave her the perfect view of every camera, every reporter, every live stream. David waited at the altar, pale beneath the golden chandeliers. The weight of his secret pressed visibly on him. Camila could see the flicker of panic behind his composed smile. He knew, deep down, that everything he'd built was about to crumble. "Ladies and gentlemen," the officiant announced, "please rise for the bride." The great doors opened, and Isabella Stevens appeared, radiant, regal, triumphant. Her gown shimmered with hundreds of hand-stitched crystals, each step echoing the sound of her victory. Every guest turned in awe. Every camera flashed. To everyone present, Isabella was the perfect bride. To Camila, she was the architect of her humiliation, but Isabella had no idea that her musical entertainment was about to turn this fairy tale into a nightmare. As the vows concluded, the officiant smiled. "And now, as the couple signs their marriage certificate, our talented singer will treat us to a special song chosen by the bride herself." Camila stepped forward, microphone in hand. Her heart was steady, her voice soft. "Thank you," she said. "This song is very special to me. It's called The Truth They Hid." David's face drained of color. That wasn't the song Isabella had chosen. A hush fell over the hall, then Camila began to sing. 6 years of love he threw away for a rich blonde who came his way. He said I had no class, no style, but forgot his lies all the while. The melody was haunting, her voice powerful, full of emotion and pain that sliced through the golden silence. Murmurs began. Guests glanced at each other. Cameras zoomed in. Divorce papers forged in the dark of night. My name stolen, my baby denied. $50 million out of sight, all for a bride dressed in white. The ballroom erupted in whispers. Isabella froze mid-step, her perfect smile faltering. David took a step forward, shouting, "Stop! Stop this now!" But before he could reach her, two security guards, discreetly placed by Rosa, blocked his path. Camila didn't stop. Her voice rose higher, pure and relentless. While I cried alone, he signed the lies. In offshore banks, their fortune hides. "Isabella, dear, your groom's deceit, a federal crime beneath your feet." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Reporters stood, phones raised, recording every word. Isabella turned to her father, Harold Stevens, who had gone pale, clutching his chest. "Dad, what is she talking about?" she whispered, but Camila's song answered before he could. "The man you trust, the empire's crown, built on money meant to drown. The truth they hid, the lies they spun, all crashed today. The song's begun. The music stopped. Silence filled the room like a storm waiting to break. David lunged toward her. "You'll regret this, Camila." But before he could take another step, the ballroom doors burst open. "FBI! Nobody move!" Gasps, screams, cameras spun toward the entrance as federal agents strode in, badges raised. David froze, his arrogance collapsing into terror. Harold Stevens staggered backward, stammering protests. One of the agents spoke loudly and clearly. "David Rodriguez, Harold Stevens, you are under arrest for tax fraud, money laundering, and document forgery. Anything you say can and will be used against you." The room exploded into chaos. Guests shouted. Reporters surged forward. Isabella screamed, clutching her veil as the agents handcuffed her father and her new husband. "No!" she cried. "This can't be happening. David, tell them it's not true." David tried to speak, but his voice was drowned out by the flashing cameras and the collective roar of disbelief. Camila stepped off the stage, calm amid the storm. Isabella turned to her, trembling. "You planned this! You ruined my wedding!" Camila met her gaze, her voice soft but cutting. "I didn't ruin your wedding, Isabella. I just sang the truth. If the truth destroyed it, maybe it wasn't real to begin with." Rosa appeared beside her, holding a folder. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced to the stunned crowd, "I am Rosa Rodriguez, criminal attorney. I have handed over all evidence of this fraud to the authorities. My sister Camila was falsely divorced and exploited. This," she gestured toward the chaos, "is justice." Reporters swarmed. Flashlights exploded. Harold Stevens shouted something about a misunderstanding as agents led him away. David struggled in his cuffs, his voice breaking. "Camila, please! You can't do this! You'll destroy me!" Camila looked at him for the last time. "You already destroyed yourself," she said quietly, as he was dragged past her. Their eyes met. The man who had once promised her forever, now reduced to nothing but fear. Outside, police cars lined the street. Within minutes, the videos began hitting social media. By the time the FBI vans pulled away, hashtags like "The Truth," "They Hid," and "Wedding Gone Wrong" were trending worldwide. Isabella collapsed to the floor, sobbing. Reporters surrounded her, shouting questions. Camila stood by the window, looking out at the flashing red and blue lights. Her hands rested on her belly. "You did it," Rosa whispered beside her. Camila smiled faintly. "No, Rosa, we did it." And so did the truth. Outside, a reporter called out to her, "Ms. Rodriguez, how do you feel, knowing your song exposed one of the biggest scandals in the city?" Camila turned to the cameras, her eyes calm and luminous. "I feel free," she said simply. Completely free. She walked past the chaos and through the flashing cameras, the shouts, the ruined flowers, and into the night, where the world finally saw her not as a victim, but as a woman reborn. The melody of her revenge lingered in the air, a haunting echo of justice sung in perfect pitch. The night after the wedding felt unreal. The world outside the Grand Hotel Metropolitan was still buzzing, flashing lights, cameras, reporters shouting questions, but for Camila, everything was strangely quiet. She walked through the marble lobby like a ghost freed from its curse. Behind her, chaos raged, the bride in tears, the groom in handcuffs, the father in shock. But Camila, she carried peace. For the first time in months, her heart wasn't racing from fear or heartbreak. It was steady, calm, like the stillness that comes after a storm finally breaks. As she stepped into the cold New York night, Rosa caught up with her. "Are you okay?" her sister asked softly. Camila looked at the streetlights reflected on the wet pavement. "Yes," she said. "For the first time?" "Yes." By dawn, the video of her performance had gone viral. Every major network replayed the clip. A pregnant singer exposing her cheating ex-husband and his corrupt empire through a live song at his wedding. Social media exploded. Hashtags trended worldwide. The truth they hid, Camila Rodriguez, voice of justice. People called it the song that brought down a dynasty. In less than 24 hours, Camila went from being a struggling, abandoned woman to a symbol of courage. Women across the globe wrote about how her story gave them strength to confront their own abusers, cheaters, and manipulators. The world didn't just hear her voice, it felt it. 3 months later, Camila sat in her new 2-bedroom apartment, sunlight spilling through the windows. She held her newborn daughter, Sophia, in her arms, tiny, peaceful, perfect. On the television, a news anchor spoke her name. David Rodriguez has been sentenced to 8 years in prison for document forgery and tax fraud. Charles Stevens, convicted of laundering $50 million, will serve 12 years in federal prison. The Stevens Corporation has officially declared bankruptcy. Camila watched the screen in silence, her hand gently stroking Sophia's soft hair. Justice, she realized, didn't always roar. Sometimes it sang. Just then, Rosa walked in, carrying a bouquet of flowers and a box of chocolates. "How's my favorite niece?" she said cheerfully, kissing the baby on the forehead. "Growing strong and healthy?" Camila smiled. "And apparently famous?" "Oh, you're much more than famous," Rosa laughed. "You're iconic." She placed a letter on the table. "Universal Records wants to meet you. They want to produce an entire album inspired by your story, songs about strength, betrayal, and rebirth." Camila blinked, a quiet laugh escaping her lips. "I guess I'm officially a singer again." "No," Rosa corrected softly. "You're a voice, a movement." Camila's life changed overnight. Concert offers poured in. TV networks wanted interviews. Magazines called her the Phoenix Bride. But Camila refused to become just another tabloid sensation. She wanted meaning. She used her newfound fame to raise awareness for women who had been abandoned or financially abused. She donated part of her royalties to shelters for single mothers, and within months, founded her own organization, the Truth Foundation. Its mission was simple: to help women find their voice and use it to change their lives. One evening, as she fed Sophia, Rosa came over with a magazine. "Look at this," she said, handing it over. On the cover was a photo of Isabella Stevens, wearing simple clothes, exiting a small cafe. The headline read, "From Heiress to Waitress, the Fall of a Socialite." Rosa sighed. After her father's arrest, everything was confiscated. The mansion, the cars, the jewelry. She's living in a rented studio and working 3 jobs. Camila studied the photo for a long moment. There was no glee in her eyes, only quiet reflection. "I don't take pleasure in her suffering," she said softly. She was cruel, yes. But she was also lost. The real evil came from David and her father. She was just too blind to see it. Rosa shook her head. "You're too good, Camila. After everything they did," Camila smiled gently. "Being cruel back doesn't heal anything. I want Sophia to grow up seeing that strength isn't measured by how hard you hit, but by how deeply you forgive." 2 days later, Camila's phone rang. "An unknown number. Hello?" she answered. There was a pause. Then a familiar voice, fragile, trembling. "Camila, it's Isabella." Camila froze. Rosa looked up from across the room, eyes wide. "Patricia gave me your number," Isabella continued. I know I have no right to call you, but I need to say something." Camila said nothing, waiting. "I was wrong about everything," Isabella whispered. "About you, about David, about what I thought mattered. You saved me from a man who would have ruined my life, and I treated you like dirt." Her voice broke. "The FBI showed me everything. David planned to use me just like he used you. He would have laundered more money under my name and left me to take the blame. Your song didn't just expose him. It saved me. Camila exhaled slowly. I didn't do it for you, Isabella. I did it for me. For my child. I know, Isabella said, crying softly. But you gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. I'm working now. I'm in therapy. I'm trying to be better. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope one day you can find it in your heart. Camila looked down at her sleeping daughter. You already have it, she said gently. We all deserve a second chance, as long as we learn from the first. When she hung up, Rosa asked quietly, You really forgave her? Yes, Camila said, because forgiveness frees me more than it frees her. Months passed. Camila's debut single, The Truth They Hid, became one of the top 10 songs in the country. The music video, a cinematic reimagining of that infamous wedding, hit 100 million views, but the most meaningful moment came one morning when Camila received a handwritten letter from a 17-year-old girl named Donna. Dear Camila, my boyfriend abandoned me when I told him I was pregnant. He said I trapped him. I felt worthless. Then I saw your video. You gave me courage to speak out and tell my family. Turns out, he'd done the same thing to 2 other girls. Now he's facing justice. Thank you for showing me that my dignity doesn't depend on who loves me, but on how I love myself. Camila pressed the letter to her heart, tears in her eyes. It was in that moment she realized her story had become more than revenge. It had become redemption. 6 months later, news broke. David Rodriguez had been transferred to a maximum security prison after trying to bribe a guard. Charles Stevens had died of a heart attack behind bars. And Isabella? She was rebuilding piece by piece, one honest day at a time. Meanwhile, Camila signed new contracts, bought a home for her and Sophia, and expanded her foundation to help women across the country. The night of her first solo concert, the theater was packed. As she stood on stage, lights glowing, she said, This song is for every woman who's ever been told she wasn't enough, by men who, in truth, never deserved her. The crowd erupted in applause. 5 minutes long, unstoppable. Backstage, Rosa hugged her. You did it, Camila. You turned the worst betrayal of your life into your greatest triumph. Camila smiled, looking at Sophia's photo on her dressing table. No, Rosa. I just turned my pain into purpose. David tried to destroy me, but in the end, he set me free. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you. It's building a life so bright, so full, so beautiful, that their betrayal becomes nothing more than a footnote in the story of your victory. And that's exactly what Camila Rodriguez did. 5 years later, the city skyline glittered beneath a velvet night, and the name Camila Rodriguez shone in golden lights above the entrance of Madison Square Garden. Outside, thousands of fans waited, some holding posters, others holding their daughters' hands. Women from all walks of life, united by a single story, hers. Inside, backstage, Camila stood before a mirror. Her reflection was calm, graceful, no longer the trembling woman forced to sing in the shadows. Her once hunted eyes now gleamed with purpose. On her wrist, a delicate bracelet, engraved with her daughter's name, Sophia. Mom? Came a small voice behind her. Camila turned. A little girl of 4 peeked around the dressing room door clutching a teddy bear. There you are, mi amor, Camila said softly, kneeling to hug her. Did you nap? Sophia nodded sleepily. Aunt Rosa said you're going to sing again. Camila smiled. Yes, baby. Mommy's going to sing the truth. Moments later, the lights dimmed. The crowd roared as Camila stepped into the spotlight. Elegant in a flowing silver gown, microphone in hand, the same woman who had once been humiliated in front of 300 people now stood before 30,000, her voice the anthem of millions. She looked out at the sea of faces, took a deep breath, and began. They tried to bury me in silence, but the silence made me strong. They tried to break my story, but I turned it into a song. The music swelled, filling the arena like a heartbeat. Fans wept openly, holding each other, On the giant screens, images played, moments from her journey, the wedding, the courtroom, the foundation, her singing with other women, her holding Sophia as a baby, and then the words appeared in bold letters across the stage, "The Truth They Hid, the World Tour." After the show, reporters crowded backstage. "How does it feel?" one asked, "knowing you've become the voice of a generation?" Camila smiled modestly. "I'm not the voice," she said. "I'm just the echo of every woman who ever refused to stay silent." A journalist asked, "Do you ever think about David or Isabella anymore?" Camila paused. "Sometimes," she admitted. "Not with hate, though. More like looking at an old scar, a reminder of pain that once was but doesn't hurt anymore." "Have you forgiven them?" She smiled faintly. "I forgave them the day I realized they didn't define me. I did." Later that night, she stood alone on her hotel balcony overlooking the city lights. Rosa joined her, holding 2 cups of tea. "You know," Rosa said, leaning on the railing, "if someone told me 10 years ago that you'd be one of the most powerful women in the music industry, I would have laughed." Camila chuckled softly. "Me too. But you did it," Rosa continued. "You turned your pain into a revolution." Camila sipped her tea, eyes distant. "I just told the truth, Rosa. The world was ready to hear it." Rosa smiled. "And you gave it a melody." Camila's foundation had expanded internationally by then. The Truth Foundation operated in over 20 countries, helping women rebuild their lives after abuse, betrayal, and loss. They offered legal aid, education, therapy, and perhaps most importantly, community. Every month, Camila visited one of the centers to meet the women personally. One afternoon in Mexico City, she sat in a circle of young mothers, all survivors of abandonment. One woman said, tears in her eyes, "Your song saved my life." Camila shook her head. "No," she said softly. "You saved your own life. My song just reminded you that you could." On Sophia's 8th birthday, Camila wrote her a letter, sealed in an envelope marked, "For when you're older." "My dearest Sophia, one day you'll learn that life doesn't always give us fair beginnings. Some people will lie, betray, or break your heart. But remember, they can never take your voice. Your voice is your power, your truth, your compass. And when you speak or sing from your heart, the world listens. Love, always, Mom." She placed the letter in Sophia's keepsake box, right next to the framed copy of the old wedding photo. Not because she missed it, but because it reminded her how far she'd come. That evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Camila sat by the window, guitar in hand. Sophia was drawing nearby, humming softly, the same melody that had once exposed a lie and birthed a legacy. Camila smiled. "You have a beautiful voice, mi amor," she said. Sophia looked up shyly. "I want to sing like you, Mommy." Camila kissed her forehead. "Then promise me one thing, always sing the truth." Years later, that promise would echo across the world again. When Camila Rodriguez, daughter of Camila, stood on the same stage her mother once did, singing a song called "The Truth We Keep." And as the world listened, one could almost feel the spirit of the woman who had started it all, the singer who turned betrayal into power, humiliation into art, and pain into purpose. Camila Rodriguez, the woman who sang the truth and taught the world how to listen.